Right, Herman, I think we can start with you. So Herman's presentation is a real estate management course with short but weekly exams.
So thank you, Deborah. I'm going to share my screen with you at this same moment. Normally you should see something appearing, and this goes to full screen now when I pushed the right buttons. Is this okay for you like it is now?
Perfect. Thank you, Herman.
Yes. Okay. So good morning, all of you. Good morning, colleagues. Also, good morning, colleagues from our own university. So you see the same colors as in Cynthia's presentation, because we are colleagues, Cynthia, aren't we? And we are colleagues even in the same course. So a lot may sound familiar to you, Cynthia, and to the other colleagues from the university joining us. So my name is Herman Vande Putte. I'm with the university now for almost 15, even perhaps 20 years. I have to check myself. I was in practice in Belgium, in Brussels, mainly involved in an architect's office and developing also my own consulting firm on corporate real estate management. And the subject I want to teach with you is, or to discuss with you this morning, is about how can we synchronize the way students acquire, on one hand, theory, and on the other hand, apply it in a project-based learning environment. And the way we did that, the different attempts, the different techniques we used, my colleagues, and in fact, the entire university, like you will discover, is rooted on that system. So how did we do that, and what then is perhaps, like we experience it now, the added value of this short and weekly exams? So these are a few didactical choices that I want to discuss with you of our course at the university in Delft. So perhaps a short contents of my explanation. So I will situate the course, and I will explain you the issue that we were confronted with, because we have this choice of an academic year structure with 4 quarters, which creates some challenges and solutions, and then how this option for short and weekly exams solve this, at least as far as we understand it now. So situating the real estate management course in the curriculum. So our department, the real estate management in the built environment, real estate management, department is one of the faculties, one of the departments in the Faculty of Architecture, Urbanism and Building Sciences of the Technical University. So like you can see, there are in fact 5 types of master tracks in the faculty, which is architecture, building technology, landscape, our track, the management in the built environment track, and urbanism. So where in this track is our course situated? Well, it is situated in the first year of the master's as part of the 2 times 15 ECTS quarter, like you know. So in the first semester we have 30 ECTS, and the second one we have as well. So our course is a 7 ECTS course that goes along with the housing policy course. So in fact, these 2 courses run parallel for the students, and most of the time we have something like 70, actually we have 73 students in our master. So the course zooms in on management of an organization's accommodation, because we thought that from a Faculty of Architecture point of view, this is the better way to do it. So we do not go for real estate management from the investor's point of view, we go from real estate management from a user's point of view. So we stress the idea of demand, supply, and then the alignment between those 2. So the didactics within which we work at the faculty and in the entire TU, Technical University in Delft, is that of project-based learning, which means that we study theory and we apply theory at the same time. So we have a particular setup there, that I will discuss with you more in detail in a minute. So the aim, so the basic content of the course is that we try to align organization requirements on their accommodation and the built environment, in particular the places where the activities of the organization take place. So we have, of course, like all courses, a lot of learning goals, but this is more for information. You can read that at home later this evening. So the structure, the basics of the course are, as I said, 7 ECTS, in particular, running through a period of 10 weeks. Students spend half of the time of that week on our course and half of the time on the housing management course, as I explained to you. The idea is that theory and assignment run parallel from week 1, and that students spend 60% of their time on the theory and 40% on the case. Theory through, like I said, a variety of weekly small assessment instead of one exam at the end, and that's exactly the topic of this lecture of today. And the case assignment, which runs through weekly studio where students work in groups, and they produce 3 intermediate reports and 1 at the end. So we have 70 students. I'm the teacher coordinator. We run the course on the theory part with 3 teachers and 7 guest lecturers, and the studio with 3 mentors and 2 experts. So we try to vary the case every 2 years, and in this case, we have a different team every year. So what in fact is the issue that we were confronted with? The university opted, like all technical universities in the Netherlands, for a coordinated academic year, which consists of 4 quarters of 10 weeks. Runs from 31st of August till the 2nd of July, this academic year. And you see the structure here on the right. Of course, there are holidays during that period. Those are the green squares. But the idea is that students are launched into a project, are offered theory, go for a discovery of that theory and how to apply it, and that all this ends up after 10 weeks in a result on a theory that is assessed through an exam, and the assignment that is assessed through a project presentation, mostly happening in week 9 of the quarter. So what is the idea? That students gain that knowledge and the skills by working for a longer period on this same case. So on one hand, you launch a project and you initiate theory, that you do at the beginning, and you end up with students who acquired that theory, but at the same time have done a project, and you try to mix and mingle both so that they have a good experience on one hand, but they also learned a lot themselves. They become skilled in the course itself, but also in the way to find out things, to learn things, to search, to test, and to work in group as well, because a lot of these projects run in groups. So the original quarter structure, you could say, looks like this. So you bring theory and project parallel from week 1. Then they have a presentation in week 9, and they have an examination in week 10. That's the idea, where you as a teacher are supposed to bring this learning experience to a maximum by coordinating the theory and the project stages the student is in. What are the challenges? Well, there are a few. First of all, it's not so easy with this scheme to keep the students' knowledge gain ahead, or at least synchronized with the project's progress. You can imagine that students tend to procrastinate their theory acquisition. So, because, yeah, in fact, the exam is at the end. Why should you study theory in week 3 or 4? Why should you spend your time? Whereas the project is much more fun, it's exactly there, the reason why they are there. So in our faculty, it's about designing a building. In our course, it's about designing a strategy for an organization. But you can imagine in airspace, it's about designing a new wing for an airplane. It's a new engine, a new software. So students are really, that's the reason why they are where they are at our university, is to do things, to design, to make, to invent. So it's very hard to make them, to convince them to spend time on theory and studying all this stuff. So they postpone As a consequence, the project suffers from it, and in fact, the level goes down. And as a teacher, you have to repeat a lot, and that's not easy. At the same time, we see that, and that's something that the reason why this was set up like this is on the last bullet, is that on one hand, you have working time with the students, so they need to spend a certain amount of hours on a case. But on the other hand, in project-based learning, you see that there is a second nature of time, which is incubation time. So you cannot compress a project into 3 weeks. That just doesn't work. Your brain doesn't work like that. So you need something like, indeed, 7, 8, and here the choice was made for 10 weeks of incubation time to reach a certain level. But these two fight with each other. So on one hand, the idea that students should be encouraged to acquire the theory, and on the other hand, the incubation time. So in fact, what the option of the university has been a little bit out of tradition, because when I discuss this with other teachers of other universities, say, why don't you do it like we do? You just have 10 weeks of theory, and then in the next quarter, you have a project in which they apply it. Well, could be, but this is not a choice that our university made. And so the idea is also to pace up. So students have 4 projects every year, and this would lead to 2 projects only. So a few of our colleagues, and especially ones in the successful management game, what we call ON5, which is bachelor, choose to compress the theory acquisition into 3 weeks, do the exam in the 4th week, and then launch the project at full speed. In fact, it's even suggested by the academic year organizers to do that in week 5, so to really cut it in 5 weeks. But then we come in trouble with incubation time, and this is also one of the issues of this particular course, where we see a lot of pressure, a lot of difficulties in gaining sufficient depth in the project. So this was how the REM course was structured till 2018, like 4 weeks theory, 1 week of exams, 4 weeks project, 1 week of presentation, 5 weeks. We suffered from quality, but we suffered from another aspect as well, which is we are in the 2nd quarter. The course is running at this same moment, and we have these Christmas holidays. So you see that we have something like a start-stop in the week 6. So we start with the project in week 6, and then the students go on holiday for 2 weeks. And additionally, we discovered that international students, before COVID, tend to fly back to their countries on Tuesday, Wednesday, etc., because they had cheaper tickets than. So in fact, our studio was empty in the 6th week. So we didn't know how to solve that, and we went to our colleagues. Yeah, here you see it explained. So this is this famous gap, and students were asking, what can I do in my holidays for my project? Because they were just started, but in fact didn't know what to do. So there was a lot of hustle and issues. And indeed, we suffered from sufficient quality in the project. So what then is to be done? Well, we came up with this idea of having a weekly exam. So that means that we can synchronize, better synchronize. We have something like pressure that we create on students to deal with the theory every week and to keep synchronized with the project in which they are working on. And the advantage is that the project is much more advanced before the holidays, so they feel like a comfortable period to catch up or to rework certain parts, or at least to exactly use that time as a positive incubation time for their project. Because like you will see, in the 3rd, after Christmas, we launch really the strategy part, the design part, whereas the 1st was more before Christmas. We have more like analysis. So when we compare the 3 schemes that I showed you, the original one, the real estate management one till 2018, and the one we have now, we see that in fact we managed to deal with the most challenges, like especially this incubation time and working time, but also synchronizing the knowledge gain. And we see that last year, which was the first year when we did this, so now we are running it for the second time, we see a much better learning experience. And in fact, we discovered that we can even increase our threshold, the level, the difficulty of the course. So we can increase the difficulty of the course because it's a much better learning experience. So then in practice, how do we do it? Well, as I said, we run parallel with housing. So that means that we have the second part of the week. We have the Wednesday afternoon, the Thursday and the Friday. So we decided to have lectures on Wednesday afternoon. Thursday is a day free. So there is time to do self-study, but also to work in group when they want. But the idea is that students have at least one day in the week that they don't have to come to campus, pre-COVID time. Friday morning, we start, in fact, like with 1 hour of exam, almost. And then for the rest of the day, runs the studio. And here is something to be said additionally. There was another reason to do this in this way, because we saw that the studio was not frequented a lot. So a few students just stayed home, or they went abroad, or they did not search for each other and to work together. So now we have something like a collective ceremony in the morning, which is the exam. Then we have a break with a coffee. There is the people, students assemble, in fact, together, and then at 10:30 we launch the studio all together, and we go into it together with the mentors. So when we look at the scheme, how it is done, and this is a scheme that is running actually, so this is the real one. So we just finished the 6th week. So you see that we divided it also in 3 times 3 weeks. So we have like definitions, history, and trends, which is in the assignment, the first part. Then we look for the current performance of the portfolio of the organization's accommodation. And after Christmas, we launch that strategy. So we have a much more natural pace of the course design with the holidays, but also a 3 weeks period is easily to understand. It creates concrete products. So we have something like a stimulation and an upwards move to the final presentation, which is in week 10. So this is then a detailed schedule of which I show you a detail. So we run on Wednesday afternoon. Every week, students are informed about what to learn. We have the exam at 8:45, and then at 10:30, we launch the course. So, the studio. So what is the material? This year, we use for the first time the book of Haynes and Nunnington and Eccles. And for the case, we have a lot of case material, background material, histories, etc., about the portfolio. We have a weekly reading schedule for the book in which the students can refer to, and we have that weekly exam. And there is a small trick that we integrated that we are quite proud of about. It was, in fact, my colleague from the Teachers Lab who came with that. So we have a few pedagogists who work with us in the Teachers Lab to give us this kind of ideas, because the course was developed, this new idea was developed with her as a support, a scientific support. So we work in open book, we have a variety of questions, but the trick is that we have 8 assignments, of which only the 6 best count. To make it manageable for the student when he or she is ill or is absent or fails or has drunk too much on Thursday evening, which happens also in student life. So nothing wrong with that. So the 6 best of 8 count, but it's not just linear. It's the 1 best from week 8 and 9 to avoid that they stop learning, of course, in the end, and the 5 best from the remaining 7. So worked fine, worked good. Challenge is COVID, of course, and this is the main discussion. I come back to that immediately. So the studio is like group work, create a buzz, learn from each other, and now we are in the full process of doing that. So this is how the studio is organized and is set up, with collective presentations, with individual teaching moment with the teachers. And like you see, this is the schedule that we run actually. We have separate Zoom rooms for the different teachers. I come to that immediately, because what's the COVID impact on all this? Well, all lectures go via Zoom. The studio, we were lucky that the faculty provided the idea that every, I would say, cohort of students have their own day. So our students had Friday, so we could do the studio on campus, which we were lucky, till last week or till this week when the government decided to close the Netherlands to go in full lockdown. So, okay, but it worked fine. Students were very happy to meet each other. A lot of mentors, including myself, were not so happy to join the faculty and the campus already, given the conditions of COVID in the Netherlands. So we mostly tutored through Zoom or did some hybrid. A few of us joined the campus 1 or twice already. The exam is on campus or at home. It's hard to make it fair, but we see that currently the results are not so different from last year. They are even weaker than last year. We don't know exactly what the reason is. On the other hand, I did not speak about it, but the students have to make interviews with CRE managers, like was explained in the first presentation this morning. So we see that there the students have more easy to access the CRE managers, and that the recording is much easier, much natural, because people are adapted to that. In general, we could say that the COVID has a very limited impact on the design of the course, and as well in its method as results. It's quite corona-proof in its design, in fact. But we see an important impact on the morale and the fun of the students. They really miss each other. It's sometimes hard to see. And so this Friday was a very good idea of our team to do that. From our side, it's much more work, all these COVID things. And we think that for the students, it's not different. So thank you. This is my presentation.
Thank you so much, Herman. I just found that really interesting, that worldwide procrastination is probably something that we have to design for students. And when we do, it does improve the grades. But one of my students said during COVID, he said, "Deborah, there's my bed there, there's my computer there. What do you think I'm going to do?" So I think COVID did hurt that. Now, we've kind of come to the end of that time. So maybe just one question. Have we got one question from Herman? Rihanna said, really interesting, these weekly exams, Herman. I have similar course in Eindhoven and will definitely consider your approach for it.
Thank you.
So I think now we'll go on.
Deborah, it's Graham. Can I ask a question?
Sorry, Graham. Yeah, go.
Herman, how much time does this take in terms of weekly exams and having to mark them? That must be a major imposition on your time. How do you manage it? Do you have a group of tutors that you work with?
Well, perhaps you should ask Cynthia, who was victim of my methods.
Yes, we work as a team, and we prepare these weekly exam and mock exam on a weekly basis. So actually, we work very hard to update the exams and provide new exam questions to the student weekly.
But we manage it because we are many. Student assistant also helps in correcting, for instance, the multiple choice. But now we are becoming more efficient, so we are going step by step, introducing it the automatic check of the multiple choice questions through. Now we are using Adobe Forms, but we can also go for more advanced Mobius things. But I do not master it yet, so I have to learn it myself because yeah, but it's doable. And when the quarter is finished, you're done, huh?
Right, I'm sure there's a lot more questions for you, Herman, but maybe people can stay on when I'm in bed asleep. So we'll but thank you for that. I think that it's interesting that quizzes as well can help, maybe as a kind of halfway house to what you're doing if you haven't got that teaching experience, a multi-choice. But thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. And now we have Lydia. I can't see you yet, Lydia. Are you there? Speak to me, Lydia, if you're there, because you're not coming up on my screen. Have we got, can anybody else see Lydia Chen? Our next speaker.
Yawei Chen.
Oh, sorry. I had the wrong press. Sorry about that. I had to make some mistake because there were only initials on the program, so I guessed. Sorry. So we now have. If Herman, you could take off your screen, and then we've got the next one.